Hello everyone, John here, your host on the Prepared Mind channel. Welcome back. Today was an interesting day for me. I met someone that I like, didn't know was a prepper, turned out to be a prepper. Well, maybe more people are paying attention than we think. Still getting over my cold. So, for medicinal purposes, I'll be having this here hot toddy to help keep the old voice box lubricated. And, whoo, that hits the spot. So I wanted to start this discussion with, you're here on Patreon with me, I'm here on Patreon with you. Basically, we're already preppers. Basically, we should be prepared. In case you're not, in case you missed it, you need food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Okay, in case you missed that. How much food? I say you need 3 months minimum. I think you should have 2 years. If you can get to 3 months, you can work on getting to 2 years. Water. Have the ability to make fresh water for a year. Why? Well, you know, things should fall apart. You always want to be using it, even after shit it's the fan is done. Say we get a nice little 3-month spell of it. There's a chance you could still continue to get bad water. Don't want to get sick and die from that now, do we? You know, clothing, shelter, you know, we're going to need to take care of ourselves. It's important to have those things. And even after shit hits the fan, guess what? It's going to be a rough world. You're going to want to have that self-defense. And please, by all means, you're going to need medicine. You need it now, you're going to need it then. You might as well have as much stockpiled as you can. Okay, moving on from that, right? One of the other things I like to talk about is what is going to cause shit hits the fan. I like to talk about different types, but what is going to cause it? Yesterday's video I discussed how all wars are bankers' wars. All wars are businessmen's wars. You know, not businessmen like me or maybe like you, but the military-industrial complex. When you look at a war, like we look at anything, you say, why is this being done? Well, someone's doing it because it benefits them. Who benefits from war? Well, business benefits from war. War profiteers. Banks benefit from war. They're profiteers. They lend money at huge amounts, at huge interest rates during war. And government benefits from war. Now, if you're the losing government, right, of course, you don't get the best terms, but you always get more power. Well, you know, you won the war, right, and now you have to protect everybody, you need more power. Say you've lost the war and you're a government. Well, times are tight, and now we have to pay back. We've been sued for peace, and now we have to pay. So that government has more power. Who benefits? Government, banks, military-industrial complex, businesses. Right? So I think I've established, and you can look anywhere. Check out the internet. Who benefits from war? Certainly not the little guy. So I like to look at, also, what causes, right? What leads us to war? What are the indicators? What are the clues and signs that lead us to war? That lead us to shit hitting the fan? Right? It's about money after the war. It's about money during the war. And it's about money before the war. So I like to look at the economy and say, what are those indicators, right? War benefits banks. Banks and governments, when they start to fail in their system, they go to war. It's an interesting back and forth. Okay, so before we get to that, I got another email from Senator Feinstein. Preventing abuse of young athletes. Senate Bill 534 is a bipartisan bill designed to prevent the abuse of young athletes by someone like Larry Nassar. I think it's Dr. Larry Nassar, let's give him his proper title, who was just sentenced to 175 years in jail. For what? Abusing these young athletes. How did he abuse them? Sexually. I don't see the word sex here in her quoted phraseology. If sexual abuse is so bad that this guy should go to jail for 175 years, what are you and I supposed to think about Senator Feinstein? Now, I'm not alleging that she's a child abuser, but I'm talking about partisan politics and hypocrisy. See, this Nassar fella, this Dr. Nassar, was accused by a couple of young athletes of molesting them, touching them in such a way. Right? He abused them sexually. Right? I don't think he had sex with them, but I think he touched them. I'm not really privy to all the details. It's pretty disgusting. But he was accused, so an investigation ensued. There was enough evidence to support a grand jury saying, yeah, a crime's been committed. Arrest him, collect the evidence, hold the trial, send this guy to jail. How come there isn't a Senator Feinstein bill that says, Senate Bill blah 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 is a bipartisan bill designed to prevent the abuse of young people by people in politics? There's a convicted pedophile. He's very wealthy, owns a jet plane or planes, and owns an island in the Caribbean, maybe more islands. Right? And his plane was nicknamed the Lolita Express because he would traffic underage women to this island, probably in a foreign jurisdiction. Right? Probably in a foreign jurisdiction where they have lower consensual rates. Right? And then he would do what? Fly clients, politicians, powerful people. One of those powerful people who was a politician that was on the Lolita Express, more than once, I think it was somewhere between 6 and a dozen times, maybe more, was none other than Bill Clinton. Another passenger on the Lolita Express was Hillary Clinton. I can't remember any of the others right now because this is really all that's important for this topic. You see, Senator Feinstein thinks it's important to protect people, young athletes. How about young women and young boys, young girls, underage? Last month in December, on December 21st, I believe, 20th, 21st, President Trump signed an executive order to put an end to human trafficking, human sex slave trafficking. Right? He wants to prosecute and go after people. Who do we know is one? I think his name is Epstein. Might be Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Anyways, not Harvey Weinstein, but Jeffrey Epstein. I could be wrong. Double check me on that, would you? Anyways, this plane of his, Hillary's on it, going to the island where he likes to take young women. Convicted pedophile. Right? Unlike Dr. Nassar, who touches girls inappropriately, if Bill Clinton is having sex, if he had, allegedly had sex with underage adults, that's far worse than just touching. Far worse. To say that it was consensual, that these young women liked it and wanted it. Why? Why did they want it? Were they slaves? Were they convinced they were slaves? Were they bribed? Were they paid off? Was extortion used? The whole thing is sordid and disgusting. It is perverted to use wealth and power like that. Human trafficking, that is taking minors from the United States of America to Lolita Island on the Lolita Express. Why isn't Feinstein talking about that? Or is there going to be something in their bill akin to what I just talked about? In addition to protecting young athletes, why don't we protect every child in this nation, every minor, from these sexual predators. You see, I believe that our nation is balanced precariously on a moral knife's edge. I remember when Henry Hyde, during Bill Clinton's impeachment, said the flag is falling and we need to catch it. The flag is still falling. Our country is still coming down. And we're on that edge. I don't know if we're going to make it or not. Right now, Trump is in the White House. That's our one shot at it. Otherwise, we're going to have a fucking mess on our hands like we can't believe in the next few years. So, let's talk about how that mess comes to pass. Will this republic survive it? It being a shit it's the fan scenario? The absolute and total collapse of the economy. The absolute total failure of government. Right? The surrender and destruction of the Constitution. Because, well, we're broke and we just can't afford it anymore. How about this? We can't afford not to have our Constitution. Huh? All right. So I want to go through a presentation, and I had a little bit of fun with this. I was on lunch doing what I do, going through charts, graphs, figures, numbers, stories, looking at what people are doing, and I came up with this little presentation. I'm going to start here. This is a US dollar long-term chart. Here's the high peaks, here's the low peaks, okay? I'll get it up there nice and close for you. Everyone thinks that the US is king. Maybe we are, but the US dollar has lost value across the long-term chart. And this chart starts in the early 1980s. The peaks from high peaks and low peaks meet at the 85 mark, which is down here. 85. Where are we at right now? We're right where everything is converging. Everything is meeting. There we go. Let me get that up there for you. This is the US dollar one-day look. Is this one day? No, I take that back. It's 3 months. Right, currently we're at 89 in this. 89, and the dollar has lost 15 points in the last year. 15 points. I can't see and say that the dollar losing 15% of its purchasing power is a good sign. Right? If you went to the bank and your $1.15, your $1.05 was only worth 89 cents, you would be pretty mad. You'd be like, what? Why do I even keep money in the bank? Right? Exactly. Exactly. All right. The dollar is continuing to get weaker. And that means its purchasing power is decreasing at an ever-increasing rate. Right? It's becoming weaker. Who's going to want to own the dollar? Who's going to invest in the dollar? Let's take a look at that. Today was huge. Huge news in the way of investing in the dollar. In the way of the 10-year Treasury bond. Right? It closed at 270. It was as high as, I think, 271, almost 272. The 10-year Treasury bond T-bill climbed, spiked 5 cents today, which is a massive spike, right? To stop the bond sell-off, the Exchange Stabilization Fund, the Plunge Protection Team, probably the Federal Reserve, they all stepped in, right? Increases in bond rates are occurring, right? It's to attract buyers. They want to attract buyers. This is not a good indicator about the health of our economy, the strength of the dollar, the health of the economy. You see, the dollar's falling precipitously. And the bonds are starting to move, and today was huge. Bond prices going up. Bond return. Now, you couldn't offer me one more nickel to a $2.70 and say, hey, John, it's going to go up a nickel today if you hold on to that T-bill and loan the government your money for 10 years. Right? I'm going to tell you that you can go put that back in your pipe and smoke it yourself. Because I'm not going to buy a T-bill to make a lousy 2.7%, 2.75% over 10 years. While the dollar in the last 3 months has dropped, 12%. No fucking way, right? Who would do that? That's why people are getting away from it. That's why nations who are investing in us are getting away from it. So, what does this mean? Well, it means that people are they're starting to move away. It's starting to happen. There's concern over the economy. Tomorrow, President Trump is going to do his State of the Union, and I know he's going to sell America big. He's going to tell us all how great it is and how we need to look forward. And that's going to get people all excited and riled up, and they're going to run out and do whatever the hell it is they do. But you're not going to see me doing anything other than continuing to prep. And prep like the wind. Buy, store, think, plan. But when things start to go south, what's going to happen? People get out of regular investment vehicles and they get into safe haven assets. Right? We have problems now in our economy. We're starting to see inflation. So I want to go down a kind of an interesting road and talk to you about cost to do business and the amount of available resources and where that's going to lead, right? This is the silver miners' average silver ore grades, meaning the quality of their ore. The scoop of dirt, how much silver is in it, right? This chart here on the left is Horn Silver in 1909, right? You take a look at this mining. Let me make sure I get everything in frame. Very nicely done, John. In 1909, Horn Silver produced 30 ounces of silver per ton of ore, per ton of material dug up. Today, far lower deposits, right? All of these here are today's numbers. That's the amount of ore or silver they're producing out of a ton of ore. They're less productive despite improved processing techniques, right? We imagine these guys at 30 over here if they had better processing techniques. And it's not just silver that's going down, the quality of the ore, right? Copper, gold, zinc, and other metals are also getting lower yields per ton, meaning the costs are going up. Costs are going up. As the cost for copper, iron, zinc, and other valuable metals, including gold and silver, go up. As the cost goes up, that means it's going to have an inflationary impact. As the dollar goes down, you're going to have less buying power. Right? What that spells is economic disaster, especially since the entire nation is in more debt than it's ever been in. Now this chart here I've got is the top 7 silver companies' production and average yield, starting at 2005, running to 2015. Right? I'm gonna let you take a look at that. Get it centered on there. Ah, beautifully framed, John. Since 2005, yields have dropped another 57%, guys, meaning twice the work to get the same number of ounces. Twice the work to get the same number of ounces of silver. Right? And there's similar numbers for zinc mines and copper mines. They're having to work more. Just for completeness, this is the top 5 gold production and average yield. This will kill you, right? In 2005, they produced 1.68 grams per ton of ore, right? These top numbers are the millions of tons that have been dug up. Okay, so 1.68 and they dropped to 1.20. Okay, so gold in the same time frame as the silver that we just looked at has dropped 25%. All metals are becoming more scarce. We have a resource problem. When we talked about resources in yesterday's video, we talked about how countries exhaust what they have. And then they look to imperialism, other nations, as a source for those materials. And if they're uncooperative, like Afghanistan, North Korea, Iraq, which is zinc, lithium, oil, you tend to get in wars with other countries because they want what you have and you're not cooperating. Right? Is that the sole reason? No. Is it a contributory factor? You won't find me betting against that. You bet any country we invade, there's a reason for it. And it usually has to do with power, money, business, control, government, banks. Top 5, gold production and diesel consumption. Okay? Diesel consumption, millions of ounces moved and the cost of diesel. This just gives you an idea of the energy. Once again, power and money in order to make it work requires energy. We talked about energy a lot. With gold, right, this chart shows diesel consumption doubling to produce the same volume or number of ounces or grams of gold in 2005. Fuel is energy, and energy is needed to mine all metals. Energy is needed to harvest, to grow, to cultivate food for all business. So, energy, oil is huge, huge. Crude oil production cost, top producers. Right? You start at the UK, they have the highest cost per barrel just to produce it, $52.50. The US here is at $36.20. Now down here you see Iran, the UAE, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. They're all very low in cost, but they have to ship it over to us in tankers. Still, right? It's a nice chart to look at. It gives you an idea. Production cost, what it costs to get oil out of the ground. So what does it cost to produce a barrel of oil, right? Different nations have different costs. Domestically, it cost us $36 to produce a barrel. And those costs are increasing at a faster and faster rate because we're using the oil, and it's getting harder to get to, harder to find. And finally, I want to end with this. Crude cost of production rises as demand grows. Demand is growing. There's a need for more oil, more energy, so that we can do more mining, more agriculture, more transportation, basically fueling, in a quite literal sense, the economies. So over here we've got onshore, offshore, Russia, right, deep water. Then you've got North American shale, oil sands, and Arctic at $75 a barrel. Okay, let me get that framed up for you. Ah, very nice. The cost per barrel has to go up to support our latest move here in the United States. Right? Donald Trump talked about opening up ANWR in Alaska, and that will help, the U.S. with its energy needs, but it's going to cost us. Right? Shale oil is $65 a barrel to produce. We finally got oil up to $65 a barrel. That's break even for most of them. Shale oil producers, when it was $100 a barrel, were barely making it. Well, but John, it only cost $65 to make, and it was at $106, and they were barely making it. We'll get into that, right? They're not making it now. They're going in deeper and deeper and deeper debt. All these shale oil companies, these oil sand companies, all of these places where it's just expensive to get the oil out of the ground, right? So let's take a look. Again, look at the chart. Get it framed up. Pay attention over here, right? Shale oil is 65. Oil sand is 70. And Arctic oil up here is $75 a barrel, showing us how the market price, right, is high. It has to be that high just to make it viable. It has to be $80 plus, right? Domestic oil, right, easy oil is currently at $36, right? And today's market price is $65 and climbing. That shows an 80% profit. If it's 36 to pull it out of the ground and it's at 65, they have an $85 or 80% profit, right? If Arctic oil is $75 to produce, in order to make it profitable, right, an additional 80% has to be added to that, making that $75 barrel of Arctic oil about $125 a barrel. Is that what's going to happen to our oil market, right? Right now we're at 65. Is it going to go to 125? Is it going to double from here to make getting oil out of ANWR profitable? Right? If we have an oil war, that could happen. I think I predicted it's going to be $100 by the end of the year. A lot of people, a lot of smart guys, probably a lot smarter than me, are predicting $80 a barrel oil. Right? But if it's going to be profitable, it has to be a lot more than that. We're having a problem with resources. We're having a problem with energy. We're having a problem with the nations of the world maintaining a balance of power. As the economies become unstable, as diplomacy fails, we get closer and closer to shit hitting the fan. If we have an economic collapse, basically, if you cut off one of the three legs of an economy, we've had it. If you cut off the energy supply, you cut off the money supply, right, and you cut off the civility, the other two don't matter and it just falls. That is why you and I are preppers. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. It was kind of fun to do it this way rather than use the computer screen to put them up. But it's very important to understand we're getting really fucking close. Right? Trump's going to come out tomorrow and talk about how great the economy is. Right? Oil is going up. Gold and silver are going up, and they have to. The cost to produce is going up. That also means the cost to produce iron is going to go up. The cost to produce copper, all useful metals, is going to go up. The cost to produce a pound of cheese, a gallon of milk, a bushel of wheat is going to go up. A side of beef, pork bellies, everything is going to go up. While the value of your dollar has been on the decline. Right now, everyone in America, except for a few of us, I guess, are this deep in debt, and you can barely afford the debt payments. What happens when they lose their jobs? We have the problem we had in 2008. We have a crash. What happens when they lose their jobs and they can't make their payments? You get a domino effect because Peter's robbing Paul to pay Peter, who's robbing Paul to pay Peter. When people stop that pyramid chain, and you could call it a flow upwards, as the money's taken upward to pay other bills and bigger bills and different bills, the local bank can't pay off its debts to larger banks because the people in the local area aren't paying their bills because they've lost their jobs. Because companies are going out of business, because the dollar doesn't go as far, because people don't have disposable income to spend. And in this nation, we're really not creating wealth because we're sending our dollars overseas to buy Chinese goods, Korean goods, Japanese goods. We're sending our dollars to buy oil out of the Middle East because it's supposedly cheap. Yet those dollars are leaving our economy. And now those dollars are getting less valuable. So instead of taking $85, right, to buy an object, it's going to cost us $100 because we've lost 15% of our value, our purchasing power versus other forms of currency. Right? The noose is tightening. People might be trying to tighten the belts on their waist and say we can do with less, but the noose is tightening on the other end. No matter how you start controlling your bills, if you don't have income, because the economy is sliding into a crevasse. If you don't have any money, you can't pay your bills, no matter how good a planner you are. I take that back. You can be one hell of a good planner and get away with it. But you've got to have a lot of personal resources. That means really good decisions. And I think one of the best decisions we can make right now is to be a prepper. Because no matter what we do as an individual, no matter how hard we go to work, are productive, make great decisions, no matter what we do as an individual, advising everyone we know, the system is coming down. We can't stop it now. Hell, I can barely convince one other person to take a look at prepping, much less change their buying habits and get them out of debt before this comes to an end. Right? Shit is going to hit the fan. If you have a gun, train with it. Right? If you have prepper food, learn how to cook with it. Have a plan for everything. Chance favors the prepared mind. Right? Is yours. That's the question here. Is yours. If you need help with planning, go to thepreparedmind.club. We have a blog there, we have a chat window, we have Prepper Connect, We have a lot of different resources and some very good preppers on board with us that are there willing to answer questions, able to help and offer as much advice as they can to help you get caught up if you're not all the way there yet. You know, and when you start to feel the pinch personally, usually it means we're getting really close, right? I'm feeling it now. I think we're getting close, right? No excitement generated by Donald Trump is going to lower the national debt. No enthusiasm and bravado is going to increase productivity levels in this nation and lower costs so significantly that we can get ourselves out of debt. The central bank, known as the Federal Reserve, and I talked to another guy today who thought the Federal Reserve was a federal entity, as in a government entity. And I had to spend a few minutes describing how it's a private bank, and he's more than welcome to go look it up. They're going to start raising the rates 3, maybe 4 times this year because inflation is going to start, and that's their remedy, is to raise rates. Well, inflation's starting, so we need to make it more expensive to do anything. There you have it. It'll cause other sectors of the economy to fail. You can imagine this as a plate spinning on a stick, and they're spinning it and spinning it. It starts to go one way, and as they push one way to make the correction, they cause other problems. Right? This balancing game, this game period is losing its energy. Right? Once the plate stops spinning, it'll just fall off the stick. Right? And at that point, you're going to come to terms, just like I will and everyone else will, with the situation we have. You're going to need to be able to, right, buckle your seatbelt, fasten yourself in. You're going to need to be able to execute your shit it's the fan plan and go into survival mode. Literally survival mode until things get better. It could be a few months. It could be a year. It could be a couple months of absolute terror and mayhem, followed by years of hardship. But you need to be able to get through that absolute terror. And whatever preps you have after that can help you get through the hardship. Right? Because when these things happen, right, it is not a quick fix. So do your best. Thank you for coming here to Patreon. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for shopping at the preparedmind.club. That helps fund this effort. Thank you for being here at Patreon. Right, we've got a good team of people working with me, with us, and we want to keep this going. So thank you again. Have a great day. Watch what the hell is going on. Listen to Trump tonight. Right, listen to him tonight. See what he has to say. Keep your eyes peeled. Stay frosty. Head on a swivel. Semper Fi. And Godspeed to y'all.